quiet Welsh town in 1963, identical twin sisters were born June and Jennifer Gibbons. From the very start, something about them was different. Not just because they looked alike, but because they barely spoke. Not to their parents, not to their teachers, only to each other. And when they did speak, it was in a secret language, fast, mumbled, and impossible for anyone else to understand. At first, people thought it was just a twin thing, something harmless. But over time, their silence became something darker, something unnerving. The girls were inseparable. They walked in perfect sync, mirrored each other's every move, and lived in a world only they could understand. If one twin stopped walking, the other would freeze. They ate at the same time, slept at the same time. It was like they shared a single mind. Concerned teachers and therapists tried separating them, hoping it would force them to interact with the outside world. But instead, the girls shut down completely. They wouldn't eat, wouldn't speak, wouldn't move. Separation didn't break their bond. It nearly destroyed them. Eventually, they were allowed to stay together, but they became even more isolated. At home, they locked themselves in their room for hours, sometimes days. They wrote eerie, disturbing stories filled with betrayal, obsession, and death. In nearly every story, one twin would die, and the other would finally be free. As teenagers, they became more erratic. They set fires, broke into buildings, vandalized property. Their crimes weren't violent, but strange enough that authorities didn't know how to handle them. So they were sent to Broadmoor Hospitala, high-security facility for the criminally insane. They were locked away for 11 years. At Broadmoor, the silence continued. They barely spoke to anyone. They refused therapy. They whispered only to each other, always watching, always together. In their private diaries, things grew even darker. June wrote that Jennifer was controlling her thoughts, that she couldn't live freely with her around. Jennifer wrote that she felt trapped in a shadow, that June was stealing her life. They loved each other, but also feared and resented one another deeply. Then, one day, Jennifer said something chilling. "We've decided, one of us has to die." In 1993, the twins were finally approved for transfer to a lower security hospital. During the car ride, Jennifer rested her head on June's shoulder and calmly said she wasn't feeling well. By the time they arrived, Jennifer was unconscious. She never woke up. Jennifer Gibbons died of sudden heart inflammation. No warning signs, no trauma, no drugs. Her death was ruled natural, but the cause remains a mystery. June didn't cry. She simply said, "I'm free. At last, I'm free." After her sister's death, June changed completely. She began speaking, laughing, and interacting with others. Within a year, she was released. She now lives quietly alone, but at peace. To this day, no one knows what really happened, why Jennifer died, or why she said she had to. Some believe it was a psychological break. Others believe their bond was something much stranger, something not meant to be understood. All we know is this: one twin died so the other could live. In 1957, in a quiet English town, two little girls were struck and killed by a car. Their names were Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock sisters. Joanna was 11. Jacqueline was 6. It was a tragic accident. The driver was under the influence. The parents, John and Florence Pollock, were left shattered. But John believed something strange. He was convinced his daughters would come back. Not in memory, not in spirit. He believed they would be reborn. A year later, Florence gave birth again. Twin girls named Jennifer and Jillian. And that's where things start to unravel. From birth, the twins looked different, despite being identical twins. They had distinct birthmarks that matched the deceased sisters. Jennifer had a birthmark on her waist, just like Jacqueline. She also had a scar on her forehead, exactly where Jacqueline had a scar from a fall as a toddler. It could have been coincidence. But then, the girls started to speak. By age 3, Jennifer and Jillian began describing places they had never been, places Joanna and Jacqueline used to visit. They knew the layout of their old Homia house they had never seen. They asked for toys by name. toys that had belonged to their dead sisters, toys that had been packed away. One day, their mother overheard them playing a strange game. Jennifer lay on the ground, clutching her head. Jillian knelt beside her, saying, "The blood's coming out of your eyes." "That's where the car hit you." Florence froze. No one had ever told the twins how their sisters died. And they were exactly right. The injuries, the location, the impact. It got worse. When the family walked past the school Joanna and Jacqueline had attended, the twins pointed and said, "That's our school." When they visited the park, Jennifer said, "This is where we used to play." Florence and John had never taken them there. Before, the girls would panic when cars passed too closely. They'd scream and clutch each other, convinced they were going to die. Then, around age 5, it all stopped. The memories faded. The knowledge vanished. It was like the past had been wiped clean. Jennifer and Jillian grew up like normal girls, but their parents never forgot. Scientists, skeptics, and psychologists have studied the case. Some say it's just suggestion that the twins picked up on stories told around them. That memory is malleable, that grief can be contagious. But others see something else. 2 children, born with marks from the past. Memories that couldn't be learned, knowledge they were never taught. 2 lives lost, 2 lives born. And a question that still chills the bones of anyone who hears it. What if death isn't the end? What if sometimes it's just the beginning? In 2008, on a quiet British motorway, something happened that police, doctors, and psychologists still can't explain. 2 sisters, identical twins, stepped into the chaos of oncoming traffic, and what followed seemed like madness or possession. Ursula and Sabina Eriksson were Swedish-born twins who, until that day, had no serious criminal records, no history of violence, and no documented mental illness. Just 2 women, living quiet lives apart, until they reunited and boarded a bus heading to London. No one knows why. Partway through the ride, the twins began acting strange, paranoid, restless. The driver, unsettled by their behavior, asked them to leave. The police were called, but the twins vanished into the crowd before officers arrived. Then, without warning, the 2 women appeared again on the M6 motorway. Walking along the median, they weren't trying to cross. They were pacing side by side, weaving between cars, staring blankly at nothing. Then, before anyone could stop them, they ran straight into traffic. It was all caught on camera. Ursula was hit first, slammed by a massive truck moving at full speed. Her body folded beneath the wheels, bones shattered, blood spilled. Yet somehow, she was alive. She screamed at officers who tried to help her, spitting and shouting, "I know who you are. You're not real." Sabina ran next. A car struck her head-on. She bounced off the windshield and crumpled to the ground. A few minutes later, she opened her eyes, stood up and began fighting the officers. Punching, clawing, screaming. "They're trying to steal my organs." It took 6 people to restrain her. Tests showed no drugs, no alcohol, no head injuries to explain their behavior. Doctors were baffled. Ursula was hospitalized, but Sabina now, almost robotic, was taken into custody. She spent a night in jail, then was released. Within 24 hours, Sabina stabbed a man, Glenn Hollinshead, a kind stranger who had offered her a place to stay. She plunged the knife into his chest 5 times. As he staggered outside, dying, she ran, beating herself in the head with a hammer. When cornered by police, she leapt from a 40-foot bridge and survived. To this day, no one understands what caused their descent. Some claim it was a rare psychiatric condition known as folie à deux, or madness shared by 2, a shared psychosis. But others believe something more sinister was involved. something neither twin ever fully explained. No motive, no clear cause. No warning, just two women, one day, one highway, and one question that refuses to die. What made them run?